Last year, I created a Sacred Heart of Jesus origami tutorial, so I thought that this year I would create an Immaculate Heart of Mary one. It's an origami heart, an origami sword, and some optional origami roses. You can also draw your roses if you don't want to do that much folding, but I'll demonstrate both options at the end of the video. For this project, you need a red piece of square paper, a smaller piece of yellow paper for the flame. You need a long rectangular piece for the sword. Mine is computer paper cut in half. And I also use some smaller pieces of paper, about 4 to 5 inches, for the flowers. You also need some glue, some scissors, and something to color with. I've also organized this video into chapters, so if you want to skip ahead to different pieces or rewind, fast forward, feel free to do so. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of paper and we're going to fold it in half like a triangle. You're going to match up the corners and then you're going to crease along the bottom. You're going to open up your paper, turn it, and we're going to fold a triangle going the opposite way. So you're going to match up the top corners of the paper and then you're going to crease flat along the bottom like so. After you crease your paper, you're going to open it up and we're going to take the top point of the paper and we're going to fold it down to the bottom center where those crease lines meet in the middle. We're going to crease our paper so it's nice and flat up at the top. And then we're going to take the bottom part of the paper and we're going to fold it all the way up to the top, right on that crease line. You're going to crease against the bottom of the paper to make that lie flat. And then we are going to be taking the side parts and folding them up. You're going to take one part of the side and you're going to fold it up along that center crease fold like this. And you're going to crease that side nice and flat. This creates one side of the heart. And we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. We're going to take that bottom left side, match it up to the right side in the center, and then you're going to crease along that side edge. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to flip our paper to the other side, and we're going to take the side points and we're going to fold them in a little bit, and that's going to help the sides not be as pointy. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, take that point and fold it in towards the center and crease, and we're going to take the top points of the heart and we're going to fold them down just a little bit. So I try to match up the points with the crease lines like this, and that just kind of gives it a more rounded look for the origami heart. We're going to flip our paper to the other side, and what we're going to do next is we're going to grab some glue. I'm going to be using a glue stick, and we're going to secure the different pieces of the heart together. That way it doesn't keep trying to open up. So I'm gluing each of the sides, the little points, with my glue stick, and I'm making sure that I'm holding it down flat as I glue to make sure that it sticks together nice and secure. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to create the flame for our heart. So I like to take the yellow paper scrap that I have for my flame, and I like to hold it behind my paper. I use a pencil to sketch it out. So on one side of the heart, I do a curved line, kind of like a parenthesis, and I'm going to be doing a similar curve on the opposite side, and this helps me determine the width of my flame. You, of course, can make your flame look different than mine if you choose. In between the two parenthesis shapes, I'm going to move my pencil down and up and down and up to create a zigzag shape for the different parts of my flame. Once I get my flame just the way that I want, I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to cut out my flame. Once you get your flame cut out, you can take your flame shape and hold it up against your heart to make sure that it's just the right size for your Origami Immaculate heart. If you're happy with the size of your flame, you can take a glue stick or some glue and you can glue your flame to the back of your origami heart. The next thing that we're going to be doing is we are going to be working on the sword. So I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to fold it half long ways down the center, making sure that I line up the edges, and then I'm going to crease all the way down. I'm going to open up my paper and I'm going to take the side edges of the paper and I'm going to fold them in towards the center crease line. I line up the edges, crease nice and flat, and I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. I'm going to line it up with the center page, and I'm going to crease all the way up and down. Once again, I'm going to be folding my paper in towards that center line. So I'm taking the edge and I'm carefully folding it in towards the center crease line in the middle. And I'm going to crease all the way along the edge. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to take my paper, I'm going to fold it in towards that center crease line, all the way down the paper. I'm going to open up those creases. And what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to create the bottom point of the sword. So down at the bottom of one of the ends of your paper, you're going to fold the corners in towards the center, creating a little triangle shape. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. This will become the point of our sword. You're going to flip your paper to the other side, and we're going to take the top part of the paper and we're going to fold it down about 1/3 of the way down the sword. We're going to crease the top part of that sword flat and flip the paper back over to the other side. We're going to refold the paper edge towards the center, kind of just refolding along those same crease lines. But what's going to happen is up at the top, the paper is going to want to start to fold down flat like a triangle. This will become the hilt of the sword. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to fold the edge of the paper back along that crease line towards the middle of the paper. And when you get to the top, you'll create that triangle piece. You're going to take the back part of the paper and you're going to fold it upwards as far as it will go, and that's going to level off the bottom edge of that handle for the sword where those triangles are. And what we're going to be doing next is we are going to fold that paper down as far as it will go to create a crease. And then we're going to fold the paper in along those same crease lines from earlier. So the paper is going to fold over the triangle parts of the handle for the sword, and you're going to fold along the same crease lines, and that is going to create a rectangular piece that comes down like this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the rectangular piece and we're going to fold it back up as far as we can. And where it kind of stops is at the bottom edge of that handle. And you're going to crease along that edge and you're going to lift it up as high as you can. So you can leave the handle like that, but if you want it a little bit skinnier, you want to take the side edges and fold them in towards the center. As you start to crease those in towards the center of the paper, it's going to start to create a little triangle down near the base of the handle. So I'm using my finger to kind of open that up, and then I'm pushing it down flat. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to fold the edge of that handle in towards the center to make it skinnier. I'm going to open up that little pocket to create that triangle, and I'm going to push it down flat. And that is the way that you create your sword. So now that we have our sword folded, we're going to insert it into our heart. So what I'd like to do is I like to take my sword and I like to lay it directly on top of my origami heart first. That way I can figure out what angle I want this sword to get inserted into the heart. I take a pencil and I put some little marks on either side of the sword, at one on one side and one on the other. Then I move the sword out of the way and I can kind of connect my dots with a slight curved line to create the areas where I am going to cut holes into my origami heart. For cutting the holes, you have the option of using either scissors or an X-Acto knife. So if you choose to use an X-Acto knife, I recommend that you put a cutting mat or a piece of cardboard behind it. You always want to make sure that you pull the X-Acto knife in a downwards motion to make it easier to make that cut. And I do that for both parts. Once the holes are cut, I slide my origami sword through the holes carefully, and that is the end of the sword. and the heart of our Immaculate Heart. So if that feels like enough origami for you, you can draw your roses for your Immaculate Heart of Mary. I'm taking a Sharpie and I'm just doing a really simple rose design. I start off by doing a spiral motion, think kind of like the center of a cinnamon roll. I move my pen around in a spiral motion, and when I want to create a petal, I just kind of attach it to the spiral and start another line. You can make these petals as big or as small as you wish, and I did 3 roses for my Immaculate Heart, and then I chose to color my roses with colored pencils. You, of course, can use any art supplies that you have on hand for creating your roses, and feel free to make any changes or additions that I did not do in my example. I also chose to color the handle of my sword during this time, and I just chose to use markers for this. That concludes the drawn rose version of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. As promised, I also said that I would do an origami version as well. So for these, I use a smaller piece of paper and I fold it in half like a triangle. I open up my paper, I turn it to the side, and I fold a triangle going in the opposite direction. I open up my paper and I'm going to be folding my paper in half next. Think hamburger or hot dog style. So I match up the corners up at the top and then I crease along the bottom. I open up the paper, turn it, and fold a rectangle going in the opposite direction. So I turn my paper so the open part is down at the bottom, and I'm kind of folding along the crease lines, pushing the paper inwards to create a triangular kind of edge. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm just kind of pushing the paper in and refolding along those crease lines to create a triangle shape for my base. Then I'm going to take the bottom corner of the triangle and I'm going to fold it up towards the top point, matching it with the crease line in the middle. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side, matching the points up at the top and creasing it. I'm going to fold those down, and if you kind of stick your finger inside, it creates a pocket. And the more you open it up, the more it looks like a square. We want to take that square shape and crease it down flat on the edges and do the same thing on the opposite side. You kind of poke your finger through that opening to create a pocket, and we want to fold it flat to create a square shape, and they should match up on each side. Once you get your little square shapes put in, we're going to take the corners and we're going to fold them up to the right side corner or up and towards the left side corner. It creates these little triangle flaps. And sorry for the shakiness, my cat just jumped up on the table and was being annoying. There she goes. So, like I was saying, we have those 2 side edges that we folded up towards the corners, and then we're going to take that middle piece and we are also going to fold that up to create a little triangle fold. And sorry for the cat here. She's kind of a nuisance. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do the same thing, but on the opposite side. So we're going to flip our origami to the other side, and we're going to take the bottom points of the triangle and fold them to the top points. So we're lining it up with the crease line in the center on both the right side and on the left side, making sure that they match in the middle. Once those are creased, you're going to fold the lines down, and we're going to open up those pockets to create those little square pieces that we're going to fold down flat on the right side as well as on the left side. So open up the pocket, create that square, and crease it down flat. We're going to fold those up to create the corner triangles. So one on the left side, and we're going to fold it up and towards the right side to create those little triangles. And that center piece, we are also going to fold up to create a little triangle fold. So once those are all folded, we're going to take the origami and kind of fold it over, almost like turning the page of a book. If you flip it to the other side and you just kind of turn that flap, kind of like turning the page of a book, it creates a flat side on each side of the paper. We are going to take the bottom corners and we are going to fold them up and towards the center. So similar, but a little bit different than before. We're going to do the same thing on the left side, and then we're going to take that bottom part and fold it upwards to create a little triangle. So similar, just a little bit different. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to fold the corners up and towards the center crease line on the right side and the left side, and then that remaining piece in the middle, you're just going to fold upwards to create your little triangle fold. So when you take a look at your origami, this is what it should look like from the different sides. And this is the part where it gets a little bit tricky. We need to create the base of the flower. So we want to turn our paper like this, and there's this opening down at the bottom that looks kind of like the letter X. When you insert your fingers to kind of pull that open, it creates kind of like a bigger X within a square and these little triangle points on the top and bottom. This will become the base of our rose. So if you were to flip it to the other side, you should be able to lay it flat on the table. So it would be flat with this little triangle piece sticking up. So we want to take the bottom left and kind of pull it up into the side and the top right and pull it down. When you pull those pieces off into the side, it kind of reminds me of a pinwheel. So once you get that pinwheel shape, you're going to put one finger on each side of the little section. So kind of one on each section, and you're going to take your paper and you're going to start to twist the paper in a clockwise motion. The tighter you can turn it, the better. I kind of take the rose, I push it against my hand, and I twist it in that clockwise motion really tight. And when you release it, that creates the shape of that rose. And if you want to, you can even curl the other petals as well. So once you finish your rose, you can fold a couple more roses in the same style, and then you can use glue to stick them onto your origami. I have found that regular bottled Elmer's glue works better than glue stick. So for your Immaculate Heart of Mary, did you prefer to draw your own roses or to fold some origami roses? I would love to see how they turned out. Feel free to tag me on social media and know that I post new Catholic-inspired art tutorials here on my channel every week. Another way that you can help support my channel is through my Buy Me a Coffee page and art supply wish list. I want to remind you that you are loved, God loves you very much, and He loves your artwork very much. Thank you so much for folding along, and I'll see you in the next video.